Hey everyone, welcome to another Malts and Meeples as I double check that we are live right now on Twitch. Theoretically, possibly, live just now. Are we getting live, no drop frames? Must be my internet connection on my phone that isn't showing it, but hopefully this is working. It's being recorded, so it will be up on YouTube. But I'm the host of Malts and Meeples, Petter, and today we are back with some more drinking in D&D. So, with that, let's crack open the beer for today. Another fresh squeezed from Deschutes. Just one of my favorite beers, and even though we're getting to a colder time of the year here in Minnesota, I'm always going to be up for a fresh squeezed. That is just tasty. Of course, now we have stupid Windows pop-ups on the screen. So, just kind of a quick refresher what we went over last time. We went over class, background, player name, race, character. We went over all the skills, all the saving throws, all the ability scores, inspiration, proficiency, armor class, initiative, speed, current hit points, temporary hit points, hit dice, and death saves. So that's really the bulk of what the character sheet is. But we still have a decent chunk to go. That's only half of this first page, and if you can see up in the corner, just pointing it on my screen, that's not going to help you at all. We're on page 1 of 3. Fortunately, the other 2 pages go way faster, and what I left here is also going to go faster. So let's start again at the top. I'm going to scroll so we can see it all better. We have our alignment. So if you remember from the last video I put in there, we'll get back to this, and now it's our time to get back to our alignment. What is alignment? That's a whole can of worms as to what alignment is and how alignment is used. But basically it is, I like to call it, if you don't know what your character is going to do or how they would react in a certain situation, use your alignment to figure it out. So the alignment works off of 2 axes. The first being good to evil. So from top we have good, then we have neutral, then we have evil. And then the other way we have lawful on this side. Then we have neutral, and then we have chaotic. Most adventurers fall in this part, chaotic good. Most campaigns are going to be a good campaign, so your character is most likely going to be either good or neutral because you guys are going to be the heroes, not the villains of the story. So you can be lawful good over here, if you wanted. And that's going to be like your paladin character, the one who follows the rules very well and follows along. Then in the opposite corner down here, you have your chaotic evil characters. They just want to see the world burn and don't really care how, why, or who gets hurt along the way. Because your lawful evil character probably does care that some people get hurt, because they want to be seen as the benevolent dictator and everything they do is for a plan. Chaotic's a little bit more sporadic. So why do I say your adventurers are mainly up here in the chaotic good category? Because your adventurers are out there ready to do anything. So how I've heard it described, or how it was said on Total Party Thrill podcast that I listen to and recommend, is that chaotic good is basically where your adventurers start in, and if you have a reason to be out of that when you're creating your character, you can do that, but if you don't know where you're going to fall, you're probably going to fall in that category. The alignment then ties into these next 4 boxes here that I haven't touched on. These are kind of, excuse me, these are things you get from your background, your personality traits, your ideals, bonds, and flaws. So I don't have hiccups. But basically, these are here to help you be able to roleplay better. And of course, I do have hiccups. Your personality traits. Okay, excuse me for a second. Your personality trait is going to kind of help shape who you are. I mean, what your personality is. That is probably the most general out of them, and in some ways the harder one to decide on as a player, simply because it is so broad. It's kind of like saying make a comedy. Okay, well, I can think of a joke, but what's a good comedy story? A good comedy story is any story that you add jokes to. It's a good drama story, you're just adding jokes to it, basically. Your ideals, though, are going to be, this is what your character holds up. Like, this is kind of the motivation for your character being the way they are. Excuse me, too many light nights recently. The bonds are who you're connected to, or where you're connected to, that's really driving you. What are you going to protect or watch out for and have the interests of in your adventuring. And your flaws is every good adventurer in a role-playing game has a flaw. They have something, one, for the story to exploit and kind of drag your character along with it into the story, but also for creating those role-playing moments where now you have to do something, or your character just can't be only the good character, the heroic character, because they're put in a situation where their flaw is going to be driving them. And the ideals, bonds, and flaws are all things that really can drive your character, as well as the personality trait, but I would say that's a little bit less so. Let's scroll down to the bottom half of this page that we haven't really touched on at all. We'll go left to right, top to bottom. So, we start with our other proficiencies in languages. So, if you remember from last time, we are proficient with skills and saving throws. So when it says other proficiencies, it's things that aren't covered in that we're really good at. That could be speaking languages, and so you get some languages for every character race. But it's also things like, if you're a fighter, you're proficient with any weapon and any armor. You have been trained how to fight. You can do it with basically anything. Whereas an elf, ranger, might only be trained with like simple melee weapons and any sort of bow. You also get your armor proficiencies, or, for example, if you're a dwarf, you have a choice, naturally, of... I just forgot the third one. Damn it! 3 different skills. Mason, oh, there we go. Mason, smith, or brewers. Brewers. So, you're just proficient at brewing, or stonework, or metalwork. choice is yours. It's just a flavorful thing you can add to the game. And it might play a bigger part in your game. Say, example, if you're playing a dwarf brewer, the town lost their brewer, and they need, and to like win their trust, you could teach somebody in there how to brew so the town can have beer again. That sort of thing. Or maybe the castle wall crumbled in a siege and there hasn't been anybody around with enough knowledge to be able to help rebuild it. Well, if you have proficiency with mason's tools, you're now somebody who could do that. Then we have our attacks and spellcasting. Now, it says spellcasting on here. There's really not much that you do for spellcasting here. I will show that on the third sheet of your character sheet. But when you're attacking, and I'm going to just jot something down here. We have our short bow. So when you're attacking, this is your dex plus proficiency if you're proficient with that weapon. If you're not, you just get your dexterity bonus to it. So I'm an elven ranger, I have an 18 dexterity, I'm at first level. So that means, well, I have a 18, let's say 18 dexterity. So that's a 4 for my dexterity bonus. Again, remembering the rule of take the 18 minus 10 divided by 2, which is 4, plus the proficiency of 2. So when I roll a d20, I have a plus 6 to my attack. Now a short bow does 1 die 6, so 1 6-sided die worth of damage. But more so than that, I also get to add 4 to it, my dexterity. So the main thing to remember with weapons is that it is for attack bonus. So when rolling the d20 to hit, it is your stat modifier plus your proficiency modifier. So your ability modifier plus your proficiency modifier. But if you are just doing damage, it is only your ability modifier. So now let's say we also had a longsword for this character. Again, they're proficient with it, but a longsword is a heavier weapon that doesn't require as much finessed use. It is strength based. So our elf might have an 18 in dex, but only a 12 in strength. So it's plus 3, does 1 d8 plus 1. Because remember, we're first level, our proficiency modifier is 2. That means our strength modifier to get that plus 3 is a 1. So on damage, we're doing a 1. So you look at these two weapons, and you're like, okay, which one is better to hit with? So it's going to be the short bow, because you roll a d6, your average is 3.5. You roll a d8, your average is 4.5. You add the 4 to that 3.5, you have 7.5. You add 1 to 4.5, you have 5.5. So you're going to average about 2 more points of damage because you're using dexterity instead of strength. So when you're picking weapons that come with your class, that is one thing to consider. Now let's consider a final weapon here. Let's do the rapier. A rapier, again, it's something in your hand. Most melee weapons are going to be strength based. However, there are some that say finesse. If it's a finesse weapon, you have a choice. You can either use dexterity or strength. So we're going to use dexterity with this character because it's plus 6. Now I think a rapier does 1d6, so it'd be 1d6 plus 4. The same as your short box. Short. short bow. But now you have something to fight against somebody close up. Because if you have somebody right in your face and you're trying to shoot them with a bow and arrow, you have disadvantage on the attack. Because if you were standing within 5 feet of me and I'm trying to draw a bead on you, it would be really awkward for me to try and shoot somebody that close. Like, it just makes it harder to hit, because drawing a bow, taking aim, even though I don't have to aim that well since you're super close, it's still more movement than a flick of a wrist with a rapier. Now below that, we have our equipment section. This is where you're going to keep track of everything you have. So we have a short bow, a long sword, and a rapier. But then we'll have things like rope, lantern, or torches, things like that. And then probably the biggest thing to keep track of is like 10 meals. And along here we have our copper pieces, silver pieces, Illyrium, gold, and platinum. So basically our money. And we can keep track of that. We have 100 platinum pieces were loaded at first level. Over here then we have our well, it says features and traits. So basically these are the things that we get from our class, our background, and our race when you create a character, and then as you continue to level up the character from your class, that you can do that are special. So for example, if we're a half-elf, let's say that we get an ability from elves, basically the elven ancestry side of things, where we just have to trance. So instead of sleeping 8 hours, we can rest for 4, and that counts as a full long rest for us. Or if we're a dwarf, we get dwarven stone cutting, or advantage, or hardy constitution, or whatever it's called. Well, that gives you advantage against being poisoned. Or stone cutting, which allows you to be able to recognize more about stone structures, things like that, than any other race would with the same skill level. Backgrounds give you things like, okay, if you're a soldier, people recognize you as someone who is former military, something like that, and will treat you a little bit differently. People will recognize your rank who are part of the military, and you're able to pull that and get more information from people. Or maybe you're a sage and you just know, if you don't know something, you know where to find it. You know, okay, well, there's this wizard's tower. I don't know about this spell, but there's this wizard's tower over 100 miles away that will definitely have books on this. And you know that. But then probably the main things you end up putting in there are stuff for your class. So for a rogue, you would have stuff like their uncanny dodge, evasion, cunning action. Or for a monk, you would write down the description of what the martial arts are, how you can use and manage your ki. For a sorcerer, you would have your sorcerer points and your meta magics and things like that. And it's just whatever sort of skills aren't directly an attack, I would say. So they don't have that die roll with them. And some even are going to have a die roll, or the ability to give out a die. Something like that, like the Bardic Inspiration. But this is where you just track all this miscellaneous sort of extra stuff that you can do. And you will quickly fill this up as you level up. And that's why we have a whole nother section down here on the next page And this page is simply for your character's background. So you can start to fill in additional information: age, height, weight, eye color, skin color, hair length. You can draw a picture of your character. You can draw a picture of your allies. You can write down who you're connected to and how and why, what's going on. You can fill this out for your backstory. Like I said, we have our additional features and traits, which you'll be using as you fill up your character sheet. And then we even have treasure. So this treasure isn't like the money you get, isn't like the equipment that you find. This would be more like the bigger ticket or more unique historical sort of items that have value if you sell them, or value as like plot items versus just more stuff. Though it's very possible, if you're finding a lot of stuff, that you'll run out of room on your equipment section, and this would then be a spot you can fill it over. So yeah, you can see I kind of covered most of the big stuff the first time around. This time it's a whole lot more of this little smaller. This is less, I guess up here with the attacks and the features and traits, it's about the mechanical aspect of it. But a lot of the other stuff, the equipment, the proficiencies, and everything to do with the alignment and kind of your backstory, are more for the role-playing piece. And this whole second page really is for that role-playing piece as well. So where you can really flesh out your character. The final one is for your spellcasting. So this will go really fast again, because a lot of it is the same. First, we have our spellcasting class. This is literally just the class. So if you're a wizard, you put down wizard. If you're a warlock, you put down warlock. If you're a ranger who can cast spells, you put down ranger. If you're a paladin, you put down paladin. Your spellcasting ability, this one is a little bit different in that instead of putting down a number, most of these things are going to be a number, but you're putting down what ability you use to cast your spells. So in the case of paladin, it is charisma. So that's the stat that you're using to cast your spells, because it might sometimes be maybe a spell heals you for X plus your spellcasting modifier. You now know that your spellcasting ability is charisma. You go up, you look at your charisma modifier. So say it's a healing spell, you roll a d8, you roll a 3 on that, and you have a +4 for your charisma. So you heal for 7, or you heal somebody for 7. Then we have the spell save DC. DC stands for difficulty check. Simple as that. This is how easy or difficult it is to avoid your spell. So for spell save DC, I don't remember the precise math for it, but basically it's either 10 plus your proficiency modifier plus your spellcasting ability, or it is 8 plus your proficiency modifier plus your spellcasting ability. Like I said, I don't remember precisely which one of those two it is. So say it's 8, and our charisma is 3, our proficiency modifier at first level is 2, we have a spell save of 13. So now I cast a spell. I cast Fireball. That's not something a paladin actually gets, but somehow our paladin has it. He casts a Fireball, and the bad guy has to make a save. So the save says if you make a dexterity saving throw, and succeed on it, you only take half damage. Well, what do I know, or what is being rolled against? That's against the spell save DC, the difficulty check. So it's to see if you can hit that correct number. And then we have our spell attack bonus. This is just like attacking up here. It is going to be your spellcasting ability plus your proficiency. So if we say it's charisma is +3, at first level that means our spell attack bonus is a +5. So if I attack with a, let's just say it's an firebolt or something like that. It isn't something that somebody tries to avoid. It's something that I try to aim to hit somebody with. So then I roll the d20 and add my spellcasting or spell attack bonus to it. And then if I beat their armor class, I hit. Beat or tie their armor class, I hit. If I'm below, I miss. Then we have this whole section over here. We have our spells of various levels. Spells go from 1st to 9th level. What's important to note about that is spell levels do not correspond to actual in-game level. You aren't going to get 9th level spells until, I'm actually not sure what level it is at, I think 17th or 18th level. You're a very high level character. But if you're a spellcasting class, you're going to get 1st level spell slots and no 1st level spells at 1st level. But there's also this level 0 set of spells known as cantrips. It used to be in older versions of D&D that your spellcasters would have their spell slots, and once they used up their spell slots, they couldn't cast magic anymore. So you would have a wizard who would cast all their spell slots and be like, okay, let's stop adventuring for the day because I'm going to be worthless out here. Or they would then have a bow and arrow. So maybe they weren't worthless with a bow and arrow. They could hit every once in a while and they could stay all the way in the back and be safe from attacks and still shoot stuff with a bow and arrow. But you're a wizard. You want to be slinging about magic. So in those older editions of D&D, they'd be like, okay, well, I'm just, instead of it being a bow and arrow, it's just this spell that I can cast over and over again. It does the exact same damage as a bow and arrow, hits like a bow and arrow would, but let's just flavor it so that I'm casting magic because I want to be a magic user, not a wizard with a bow and arrow. Because there aren't too many wizards out there, besides Gandalf, that use melee weapons, or just weapons, as much as they actually cast spells. In 5th edition, they're like, okay, we hear you. We get this. It's annoying to have just this limited number of spells you can do. And now, for our paladin, they don't actually get any cantrips. But let's say we're a wizard. So a wizard at 1st level, I maybe have 3 1st level spell slots and I know 4 1st level spells. Since I have 3 slots, it means I can cast a 1st level spell 3 times a day. In a combat, that I might cast 3 1st level spells in a single combat. And then I wouldn't know any spells for the rest of the day, except I have cantrips. They're just going to be little spells that don't do that much damage, but it allows me to keep on casting spells. So instead of being a wizard who casts 3 1st level spells a day as a 1st level character, I'm a wizard who can cast 3 1st level spells a day, plus I can just continue to cast cantrips. And it's the same thing as being able to continue to shoot with a bow and arrow after the fact, but I'm still doing magic versus having a bow and arrow. So cantrips are just a good way to like flavor things and to change things up, give you more things to do. Plus you can get other fun abilities with it. Maybe you have the ability to light a candle or snuff out a candle with a cantrip spell, or cast dancing lights down a corridor. Okay, well now you don't have to have the lantern or a torch on you. You can just constantly cast a cantrip that keeps these lights going and moving with you without using a spell slot. So it gives you those magical things where it's like, okay, everybody else is fumbling to get a lantern out after somebody blocked out all the lights or collapsed a cave entrance in behind you. Well, as a wizard, you can just be like, snap your fingers, there are 3 dancing balls of light around you, and you're like, okay guys, don't worry about that, I got this. It gives you something special and unique to do, even if it isn't combat focused. So as you level up, you get more spells of higher levels. Like I was saying, it isn't 1 for 1. At second level, I don't know that you get second level spells. I think at third level is when you get second level spells. But you continue to add more spell slots. You can continue to get more spells that you know. And let's say I'm casting Fireball. So I'm a 7th level character. I have a 4th level spell. I'm casting Fireball that does 8d6 worth of damage. Whatever it is. I think it is 8d6, but I don't remember for sure. But I don't have a 3rd level spell slot left. Okay, I guess I'll cast it with my 4th level spell slot, but it's kind of a waste because I have a 4th level spell that is theoretically better, but Fireball just works better for me in this situation. So I cast it, it's kind of a waste. Except when you cast some spells at a higher slot, with a higher level spell slot, they get to do more damage. So if I cast it at a 4th level, maybe I get to add 2d6 of damage to my Fireball. So now instead of 8d6 of damage, I'm doing 10d6 of damage. So I get the bonus. So you can cast spells at a higher level spell slot than they are. But I can't, if I only have 2nd level spells left, and I want to cast a Fireball, I can't cast the Fireball then at a 2nd level for a lesser result. So it doesn't work both ways. I can't cast what would normally be a 8d6 Fireball at 6d6 using a 2nd level spell. I just can't cast it at all. There has to be a certain amount of magic that you put into it. And you're keeping track of all of that along here, and sometimes maybe I know Fireball, Flame Orb, Burning Sphere, Ember Circle. You get the idea of what I'm going for here. Maybe I know 4 different 3rd level spells, but I only have the ability to prepare or be prepared to cast, because magic is an energy. It's something you have to prepare to do during a day. So maybe in the morning, I only took time to mentally prepare a couple of these spells. So I only know how to cast, I know how to cast all of them, but I'm only prepared on the given day to cast Fireball and Flame Orb. But then another day, I can decide, okay, I want Burning Sphere and Fireball instead of Flame Orb and Fireball. So I can change that out day by day because I know it all. And For example, bards actually know every bard spell. They prepare a certain number for the day, and that's the number that they have prepared. Now let's say I know three, like I took the time to learn and prepare 3 third level spells for the day. However, I only have 2 third level spell slots. So I can over prepare spells of a certain level more than the number of slots I have, because I think that Flame Orb might be more useful than Fireball in a given situation, and I want to have them all available. That will just mean that I probably prepared less first level spells than I would have otherwise. So normally I would have had 5 prepared and maybe only prepared 1 third level spell, but I want to have access to all 3 of those, so I've only prepared and focused on 3 first level spells in the morning, even though I have 6 first level spell slots. That means I'm going to be casting those 3 multiple times. And I could even decide, as I cast spells, I still have the 2 available, down to 1, because I cast Fireball, and then I decide, Fireball's good enough, and I'm going to cast it again. And that's how you can really start to kind of manipulate your spells, manipulate your spell list, and how magic kind of works, sometimes works. It works differently for each magic class, but the basis of it is somewhat, or is fairly similar across all of them. So this has taken me to about 40 minutes of streaming. I'm going to stop streaming here in a second, but I just want to thank you all for watching. I hope you're enjoying the content. I will actually start to remember to tweet out about these Twitch streams when they happen, and like tomorrow I know that I'm going to be streaming at approximately 7:30. So I'm going to tweet that out tomorrow morning that I'll be streaming at 7:30. Telling you now that I'm going to be streaming at 7:30 tomorrow on Thursday, the 21st of November, in the year 2019, and we're going to start looking through and creating characters of first level and just kind of showing the combinations and how those things all tie together. And there's a great reason for doing this, because I'm hopefully going to be running some D&D on Saturday for a couple new players and hopefully 3 players who are already familiar with D&D. And so with a couple new players, we want to run what's known as a one-shot, just a quick game for a quick 1 to 2 session game, allow them to get their feet wet, and with creating characters creating characters, we don't want to spend all the time that it would take to create characters before the session. So I'm just going to create about 10 generic characters for 4 to 5 people, and then they can pick from those which one they're interested in. But it also then gives me a chance to show you different combinations, how different character races and classes can kind of synergize together, or maybe they don't synergize together, but still will give interesting role-playing options. But I just want to thank you for watching, and bottoms up.